Drawing this book with Apple illustration in Procreate is easier than you think, and I'm going to show you step by step how you can do it even if you're a beginner in digital art. Before you start, make sure to download the color palette and all my free brushes. Everything is linked in the description of this video. So now, with all of that being said, grab your drawing tools, relax, and let's start. Let's make a new canvas, A4 canvas on Procreate, and rotate it this way. We are going to sketch it first. Let's pick the color for this. Take color number 1, and now let's pick a brush. We can just go here to sketching and take 6B pencil with brush size 46. Let's start with sketching the book. Let's draw 2 parallel lines going in this direction, like that. Now a line going at the other direction over here, and a parallel one on this side. Okay, and now we can draw a line going down over here and here. Connect those lines here. Now a line going parallel to this one, like that. And here we can draw an arc to connect them like this. I'll make this book shorter here, like that. And now we're going to add here the thickness for the cover. So we are going to actually move back the inside of it, if that makes any sense. Let's draw this like that. Draw again a parallel line here at a smaller distance. Now this way. Now for this one on top. So we have something like this. And now we're just going to move this back. So now let's draw a parallel line moved back in this direction. Like that. Now over here. And like this. I'm going to actually erase here now this part. I have to move it outside a little bit more. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, and before we move on, I wanted to tell you that if you want to support me, support my channel, and also get more tutorials like this, learn how to draw in Procreate in different styles and techniques, please join my Patreon. I add there a new video every week. I'll be honest with you, making videos on YouTube doesn't bring me much money. Here's what I made last month, about $100. So as you can see, that's really not a lot. So I would really appreciate your support. It would mean a lot to me. Okay, so now let's draw here an apple. Let's start here with like a circular shape. And now we can define it. Make a bottom line here with a little wave, like that. And same here for the top. So it's like this. Now over here on top we can draw a small arc. And a stem like this. So kind of like a long triangle. Now let's draw the leaf. Just a simple shape like that. And now we can draw a worm that will be coming from this apple. So let's start here with an arc. And now just draw here kind of like a sausage shape like this. We'll draw here some lines on it later. And we can give him a small smile like this. Okay, so the sketch is finished. We can maybe still adjust the position of this apple. At least I want to do this. So for this, I can just take the selection tool. At the bottom, I have freehand option picked. Color fill is off. I can now just select here this worm with the apple like this. Close the selection. Now take arrow tool. And I can just move it. I'll make it just a tiny bit smaller. Okay. Okay. Now I can just tap here to finish this. I can redraw this part. And now in general, I'll make this bigger. So I'll take arrow tool again. With the uniform option selected, I can just make it bigger here like this, so it will fit the canvas better. Okay, let's tap here to finish this. And now we can start coloring this. Let's open the layers. We can rename this. Let's tap here and pick rename. Let's write here sketch. And now we're going to change blending mode of this layer. So tap here and set it here to multiply. We can turn down the opacity. I'll make it here 25. And now let's make a new layer and we can put it under the sketch, okay? We are going to draw here first this inside of the book. So the pages. Let's pick the color for this. Let's take here color number 3. Let's pick the brush. Let's go to calligraphy and take monoline brush. We can make here brush size maybe like 11. And we are going to draw here this shape. So let's start over here, draw a line like this. You can hold your pencil on the screen to make this a nice and straight line. Now let's make a line going on top, straight. You can make it vertical by putting your finger over here, like that. It doesn't matter that we are coming here outside of this shape because we're going to cover it with the cover of the book. Now let's draw here a line over here. Let's make it also straight. And then this part, like that. And we can just connect here those two like this. So we have closed shape and that we can color this inside. Okay, so now let's drag and drop the color in here. You can swipe your pencil to the right to make sure that the color drop threshold is a large number. Okay, so this part is done. Now we can draw here this edge of the cover. So for this, we're going to make a new layer. Now let's pick the color. Let's take color number 2. And we can draw it in the same way using straight lines. So draw a line, hold your pencil on the screen, and draw it like that. Now a straight line going down. And if you want to adjust your line, you can let go and tap here. And now you have here the points that you can move and make them connect nicely. Okay, so this is the whole piece that we wanted to draw. Let's color this inside. Okay. Now we can draw here this part over here. For this, let's make a new layer. We're going to put it under the pages over here. And we can just draw it here like that. Here doesn't matter how you will draw it, this line. We just want to now go around here this shape so we can close it and then color this part inside. Okay, so like this. And now I think I will actually go back here for a moment to the pages and just make them a little bit shorter over here. So I'll go over here, take the eraser and just make this shorter here like that. Okay. And now we just have to draw the cover. So we are going to draw the cover now on top of the pages, but under that side over here. Okay, so let's make a new layer. take the brush and draw a line over here. And then a line this way. And now just lines under this side of the cover. So we can just close this shape. And now color this inside. Okay? So the book is finished. Now we can draw the apple and the worm. So let's make a new layer on top of the book, all the layers for the book. Let's pick the color, take color number 4, and we can outline the apple. Okay, let's color this inside. And now on the new layer we can color the stem, the leaf, and the worm. So let's make a new layer. Let's start here with color number 5 and draw the stem. Color it inside. Now color number 6 for the leaf. Color it inside. And now color number 7 for the worm. Okay, and color this inside. We can turn off the sketch now. So let's just tap over here and turn it off. And we can maybe now add the background color too. So let's go here to the background color. And I have picked here 2 colors. One is this like a little bit pinkish, and one is this blue one. I'll go here with the blue one. So this is here color number 21 or 22. Okay? Let's tap here on done. And now let's start adding here some shading. Let's start here maybe with that book cover over here. The biggest part, the top part. We're going to make a new layer on top of this one. And we're going to set it here as clipping mask. So tap here and pick clipping mask. This means that now whatever we'll draw will be visible only on the shape that is on the layer underneath. Let's pick the color. Let's take here color number 9. Now let's pick a brush. For this we can use here my siakulaart special brush. So let's go to this folder and take here medium noise. Let's make your brush size about 24. And before we do this, I just want to check one setting. Let's go here to the Actions menu, Preferences, Pressure and Smoothing. And over here, if your number is high, we have to turn it down. Let's make it here now about 16%. This is so that now we can move freely over here with this brush. If the stabilization was high number, our moves would be kind of like stiff. Okay, so with this darker color, we can add here some shadow. Let's add it now here under the apple, like that. Make it darker right under the apple and spread it out over here. Okay, and that's enough. We are still going to make it darker in a moment. Now let's pick the color for the lights. Let's take color number 10. We can add it just a little bit here on this edge over here. And now way more on this side, like that. Okay. And this is enough. So now we want to make here this shadow under the apple way darker. For this we can make a new layer on top of this one. We can also set it here as clipping mask. And now just change blending mode of this to multiply. We can take here now color, again, color number 9. Let's make the brush size now smaller, 7%. And just draw here some more shadow under this apple. Make this part here darker. Okay. So like this. If you think this is too dark, we can now turn down the opacity of this layer. Let's tap here. And we can make it maybe here like 72. Okay, so this part is done. Now we can do the same to the sides of this cover. So this layer over here. Let's make a new layer on top. Set it here as clipping mask. We have the dark color now, so let's use it. Let's make the brush size a little bit smaller, like 4%. And over here by the corner of it, we can add it here like that. And we can make it spread out this way. And then let's add it also here at the top edge. Over here like this on both of those parts. And then here at the bottom one, we can also add a little bit at the bottom part. So like this. Now over here, we can add it here to the top part. And then here, this bottom part of this piece, let's add it at the bottom part of it. And then a little bit here at the top edge too. So it looks like that. Now let's add here this lighter color. Color number 10. We can add it now here on this arc part here. And just a little bit here, like that, through all of it. And over here, kind of like in the middle. Okay, so like this. I'll make maybe here this edge still darker. So I'll go back here to this color number 9 and make it here darker. So it pops more against that top part of the cover. Okay, like this. Now let's color here this inside part of the cover. So let's go to the layer of it. It's the one at the bottom. Make a new layer on top. Set it here as clipping mask. We have the dark color. We can make the brush size maybe now bigger, like 8. And just make here this whole part now darker. Like that. Over here very dark in this top part. And make it go here like this. Now dark here around the pages. Okay. And over here just around the pages. So I'll make the brush size 3% and just add it over here. Okay, so like that. Now let's take here this lighter color, color number 10. We can brighten up now the edge on the outside, like that. Okay. And now we can make here this part still darker. So let's make a new layer on top, set it here as clipping mask, and change this here to multiply. Let's take here color number 9 and just make here this darker. like that. I'll also make this part here darker. So by the pages. Okay, this is enough. So now we can do the same to the pages. So let's find the layer of them, this one, make a new layer on top, and set it here as clipping mask. Let's take color now 11. We can make the brush size bigger. Actually, maybe we can change here even the brush. Let's take now the small noise. Make the brush size 13. And let's start here with adding this in this corner. Spread it out here like this. And now way darker here under the cover. Like that. And now we are going to make here a clean cut. Let's take the eraser, tap on it. Let's set it here to calligraphy and Malayan brush with the brush size 40. We can draw here a straight line like this and just cut this away in here. Okay. Let's take the brush again and we can draw with it now here right under the cover. Then a little bit here like that, spread it out. Okay. Now let's pick here lighter color. It will be color number 8. We can add it kind of here like in the middle, close here to this edge. Just make sure that you will not go here on this shadow. So like that. And now over here. Okay. Now let's make here this part darker. For this we can make a new layer on top, set it here as clipping mask, and change blending mode of this to multiply. Let's go back here to color number 11. We can make the brush size smaller, 4%, and just make here this part darker right under the cover. Like that, and then also over here. Now maybe we can draw here some smaller details and draw here few lines to show that there are the pages. So for this we can make a new layer. We can set it here as clipping mask. And we can change blending mode of this layer to overlay. We can use here this color that we have now, color number 11. Make the brush size very small, 2. And just draw here some lines like this. Maybe, you know what, let's change the color. This is not very visible. Let's take here color number 1. And we can adjust the opacity of this in a moment. So draw straight lines like this. So draw a line and hold your pencil on the screen. You don't have to draw them all the way through the whole pages part. So just like that. And now same this direction. Okay, like this will be enough. And I think I'm going to actually keep this opacity of this layer as it is. I don't want to turn it down. Okay, so now Let's add the shading to the apple. Let's go to the layer of it. Let's make a new layer on top and set it here as clipping mask. Let's pick the color. Let's take color number 12. And now for this we can change the brush. We can stay here in my Siakula special brushes and take here texture 4. Okay? And by the way, if you're looking for some more texture brushes, I have a whole brush set with many different textures. So if you want to check it out, I'm going to leave the link to this in the description of this video. Okay? But I'll go back here to the Siakula special brushes and texture number 4. I'll use here brush size. Maybe let's make it now 25. And we can draw with it now over here at the bottom part. We can maybe make the opacity of this brush smaller, like 59, and draw like that. Okay, we can add it now also with a smaller brush size, 10%, somewhere here around the stem, and kind of shadow from the leaf, and now here under the worm, like that. Okay, now let's take your lighter color, color number 13. We can make the brush size bigger, 22, and we can draw now here on the left side, like a bigger spot like this. And then let's make the brush size way smaller, like 6%, and you can draw with it in that shadow part, so over here on the edges. Also here on this right side, like that. Now let's take an even lighter color, color number 14. We can again draw here in those shadow parts, just on the edge, like that. We can draw also here a line before the stem, like that. And now let's make the brush size a little bigger, maybe like 13, and make here this highlight a little bit stronger. So like this. Okay? We can now make here some shadows darker on this part. So let's make a new layer for this. Set it here as clipping mask and change this here to multiply. Let's pick the color. Take color number 12. Let's make the brush size smaller, 4. And we can just add this here now way stronger around the stem. Like that. And a little bit here around the worm. Like that. And now with a bigger brush size, maybe like 7%, we can make here this part a little bit darker. Okay, and now, so this is not so strong, we can turn down the opacity of this. I'll make it here 53. Okay, and now maybe also for this apple to show that it's really shiny, we can add here some more highlight. Let's make a new layer for this. Set it here as clipping mask. We can change blending mode of this to add. And let's take color number 14. And just over here we can make this really nice and strong. Like that, okay? So this way this apple pops nicely here. And I think it looks better. So also we can just turn down the opacity of this, so it's not too strong. I'll make it maybe here like 81, okay? Okay, now let's add here shadow and light to the other pieces. So the leaf, stem and the worm. Let's make a new layer on top of this one. Set it here as clipping mask. And let's pick the color. We can start here with the stem. Let's take color number 15. And now let's change the brush for this too. So for this, maybe let's take your texture number 1. Make the brush size like 5%. And we can now just add it here to the bottom part and the right side like this. Okay? And that's it. Make sure that you will not draw here on the leaf. Now let's take color number 16. And we can brighten up the left side of that stem, like that. And with a very small brush size, 2%, we can brighten up here this shadow part on the right side. Okay, like this. Now let's take colors for the leaf. Color number 17 first. We can make the brush size now maybe like 4%. And just make here this right side here darker. Like that. Okay. And now color number 18 to make the left side brighter. And also we can add it now just a little bit here on the edge, on that shadow part. Okay. Now let's move on to the worm. Let's take your color number 19. And for this, let's change the brush. And I'll just go here to my siakulaart texture brushes. But if you don't have them, maybe you can use here texture number 2. But I feel like I would like to add here this one. Universal shading brush. With a brush size 10%. We can add this now here to the bottom part of him, like that. A little bit here where he's coming out. Okay, so like this. And now for the light part, let's take color number 20. Add it here more in the middle and on top of him. And then with a smaller brush size, I'll make it 2%. We can add it here in that shadow part over here, like this. Okay. And then we can make it stronger around his head over here, like that. So now we can add here some details. For this, let's make a new layer. Let's add it here as clipping mask. And maybe let's make this here head. Let's add here some veins on the leaf. Let's take your color number 18. We can just use now the brush that we use here for the worm. Make it small, 1%. And draw here line for the veins, like this. Okay. And now for the worm, we can draw here some lines like this around him. And now let's turn down the opacity of this, so it's not too strong. And make it here 51. Okay, so it looks like that. Now let's draw him a face. This we can actually maybe do here on this layer. Let's change the color. Take color number 15. We can change the brush. Let's go here to sketching and take 6B pencil. Make the brush size now 19. And just draw here small eyes. Like this. And a smile. Okay. We can also add him a blush. For this, we can just use color number 14. We can make the brush opacity smaller, like 66, brush size 78, and draw here 2 oval shapes around his eyes. Okay, I want it to be very subtle over here. So it looks like that. So now maybe we can still add here a little bit more shadow around this area and under him. So for this, let's make a new layer now here. We can set this layer here to multiply. Let's take here color number 19. Let's go back to the brush that you used for this. So I'll go to the Siakulaart textures and universal shading. With the brush size now like 2%, we can make here this part darker. And then also like here, kind of in the middle of this shadow here, like that. And also we can add here smaller lines still along his body, like that. I think this looks better now. We can maybe also darken here this stem over here and the leaf just a little bit, like that. So around the veins, just a little bit. I thought maybe it would be nice to add here still some kind of texture to the apple. So for this, we can go here to the colors on the apple. Let's make a new layer on top. We can change blending mode of this to overlay. Let's pick here color maybe number 13. And let's pick here now some kind of brush, maybe some kind of splatter brush. So let's go to Siakulaart Special. Let's use here this brush, Tiny Splashes. With the brush size 92, we can just add it here like that, all over it. And now let's turn down the opacity of this. I want it to be there very subtle. I'll make it here maybe like 41, okay? And now let's change the color. Let's add it here now in yellow, color number 8. And change the brush. Maybe now we can take here this one with dots watery, brush size 100, and just add it here like that. Okay, I think it looks much nicer, a little bit more interesting. Okay, so now in the end, we can still add here just something to the background and the shadow under the book. Let's start with the shadow under the book. So for this, we can just make a new layer under everything. So first, maybe let's make a new layer on top of everything here. And now just move it down all the way here. Like that, so it's at the bottom of everything. Let's pick the color. Use the same color that you used for your background. So if you used color 21, use 21. If you use 22, then use 22. Let's pick the brush now for this. So let's take here in Siakulaart Special. And let's take here this spray. With the brush size about 25, we can draw now shadow here. Oops, I forgot to change the blending mode of this. So let's go to the layers and we have to set this here to multiply. Okay, so we can actually see what we're drawing. I'll start again. I'll just clear this, okay? And edit here like that. I'll make the brush size bigger now, 73, and make it spread out more. Okay, like that. We can turn down the opacity of this. So go over here and turn it down. I'll make it here 61. And now we can just make it darker right under the book. So for this, let's make a new layer. Let's also set it here to multiply. And here we can take different color, color number 23. Now we can make the brush size smaller, 26. And just add this here right under the book, like that. Maybe we can actually turn down the opacity of this brush. Let's make it here 31. So this way we can kind of control it more. Add it here right under the book, like that. Until it's very dark, only right under the book. So we are creating here a gradient. I'll make the brush size smaller now, 7%. And I'm making now here this part way darker here. And we can always turn down the opacity of this layer too. So if you think it's too strong, don't worry. Okay, so like this. And I'm going to turn down the opacity of this just a little bit. I'll make it here 86. Okay, so now in the end we can still add maybe like a fun design behind this whole illustration. Let's make a new layer for this. We can move it now under the shadows over here. We are going to change blending mode of this to add. So now we can just use the color of our background. So if you use 21, use 21. If you use 22, use 22. Okay? And let's change the brush for this. We are still in the siakulaart special brushes. And we are going to use here this one. Let's paint. Let's make the brush size now like 21. And just draw kind of like a funny zigzaggy line behind this. It might take you a few tries to make it look nice the way you want it. I like it like that. Let's color here those inside parts. Like that. And now let's make the brush size smaller, maybe like 12, so we can make here those ends more pointy. And now we can still draw here some kind of other shapes around it. So like that. And of course we're going to turn down the opacity of this so it's not so strong. Okay, so something like this. Okay, and let's turn down the opacity of this. I'll make it here 19%. Okay, so now with this illustration is finished. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you can share your drawing with me on Instagram. I would love to see it. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to get more step-by-step tutorials like this and also support me, don't forget to check out my Patreon. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!